I'm Kara Juxtack. My passage comes from Dickens' Bleak House, chapter 59. The reader is introduced to illegitimate child Esther Summerson, then eventually to her mother, Lady Dedlock, who desires no communication with her long-lost daughter. Esther and a man named Mr. Bucket set out in pursuit of Lady Dedlock. They discover the body of a woman at the gate of a burial ground, whom Esther believes to be previous acquaintance, but she soon discovers that it is her own mother, dead. This passage is told from Esther's perspective as she walks the streets in search of her mother. I have the most confused impressions of that walk. I recollect that it was neither night nor day, that morning was dawning, but the street lamps were not yet put out, that the sleet was still falling, and that all the ways were deep with it. I recollect a few chilled people passing in the streets. I recollect the wet housetops, the clogged and bursting gutters and waterspouts, the mounds of blackened ice and snow over which we passed, the narrowness of the courts by which we went. The unreal things were more substantial than the real. At last we stood under a dark and miserable covered way, where one lamp was burning over an iron gate, and where the morning faintly struggled in. The gate was closed. Beyond it was a burial ground, a dreadful spot in which the night was very slowly stirring, but where I could dimly see heaps of dishonored graves and stones hemmed in by filthy houses with the few dull lights in their windows, and on whose walls a thick humidity broke out like disease. On the step at the gate, drenched in the fearful wet of such a place which oozed and splashed down everywhere, I saw, with a cry of pity and horror, a woman lying. Jenny, the mother of the dead child. I ran forward, but they stopped me, and Mr. Woodcourt entreated me with the greatest earnestness, even with tears, before I went up to the figure to listen for an instant to what Mr. Bucket said. I did so, as I thought. I did so, as I'm sure. Miss Summerson, you'll understand me if you think a moment. They changed clothes at the cottage, and one returned, said Mr. Bucket. And one went on, and the one that went on only went on a certain way agreed upon to deceive, and then turned across country and went home. Think a moment. I could repeat this in my mind, but I had not the least idea what it meant. I saw before me, lying on the step, the mother of the dead child. She lay there, with one arm creeping round the bar of the iron gate, seeming to embrace it. She lay there, who had so lately spoken to my mother. She lay there, a distressed, unsheltered, senseless creature. She, who could give me the only clue to where my mother was. She, who was to guide us to rescue and save her whom we had sought for so far, who had come to this condition by some means and connected with my mother, that I could not follow, and might be passing beyond our reach. And help, at that moment, she lay there, and they stopped me? I saw, but did not comprehend, the solemn and compassionate look on Mr. Woodcourt's face. I saw, but did not comprehend his touching the other on the breast to keep him back. I saw him stand uncovered in the bitter air with a reverence for something, but my understanding for all this was gone. I even heard it said between them, "Shall she go? She'd better go. Her hand should be the first to touch her. They have a higher right than ours." I passed on to the gate and stooped down. I lifted the heavy head and put the long, dank hair aside and turned the face. And it was my mother!